Today, we're diving deep into the chilling ending of 28 Years Later, the latest installment in Danny Boyle and Alice Garland's iconic zombie franchise. Now, while the film is packed with the usual gore and gruesome scenes, the final sequence introduces a disturbing element that goes far beyond the on-screen violence. And to truly understand its impact, you need to know the context. Full spoilers ahead. In the final moments of the film, young Spike is overwhelmed by a horde of infected. Just when things look bleakest, a particular figure appears to save the day. Enter Jimmy. This mysterious man, clad in a tracksuit and a blonde wig, introduces himself as Jimmy. Now, being played by the unsettling charisma by Jack O'Connell, who clearly is cornering the market on creepy characters this year, Jimmy seems like an unlikely savior. But he unleashes a small army of followers, all dressed exactly like him, who dispatch the zombies with an almost comedic acrobatic maneuvers. But here's where things take a dark turn. The outfit, the tracksuit, the blonde wig, the very persona is a direct reference to Jimmy Savile. For those unfamiliar, Seville was a once beloved British television presenter. Now, after his death, he was exposed as a prolific sex offender, having committed hundreds of sexual abuses, and most of them involving children. So the question is, why? Why include a character so explicitly modeled after such a reviled figure? What does it mean within the context of the film's themes of societal breakdown and normalization of evil? This is what we'll be unpacking in today's video. We'll dive into the possible interpretations, the potential motivations of Boyle and Garland, and the overall impact the controversial ending has on the film. So stick around and let's unravel the disturbing truth behind Jimmy Savile in 28 Years Later. So full disclaimer, this is a clip out of a much larger discussion about 28 Years Later. In the description of this video, you can find a full discussion of me talking about the entire film, the plot, the motivations, the meanings, and everything in between. So once you're done watching this and you want to hear more of my thoughts, you can find that video once again in the description of this video. Now, Spike makes the critical decision to leave the newborn behind at the gate of his village with a note for his father. So basically, the note tells Jamie about their journey, what happened to his mother. Also, there's information about this newborn child who isn't affected, but also has given the name of the child to name it after his mother. And he tells his father that he's going to go on his own journey. He's going to come back when he feels like it. Realizing what Spike has done, Jamie desperately tries to go after his son, but is unable to due to the high tide. Now, this is where we get our full circle moment, making his back in the film, as Spike is at a campfire and he is confidently killing these infected, which shows he's no longer the scared child that he once was. Now, as more infected arrive and caught between danger, Spike is rescued by a cult of survivors, a group led by a man named Jimmy, the same Jimmy from the opening scene, now grown and wearing that crucifix necklace from his father. You notice that his crucifix is turned upside down. To me, that represents the idea that Jimmy, maybe a believer in God and religion, has now changed his religion, or maybe has thrown away religion. He's created his own cult and his own beliefs. Now, initially, going back to what I said at the beginning, it seemed like their color schemes were similar to the Teletubbies, but again, there's a much more in-depth explanation on why they're dressed the way they are. Now, the fun doesn't stop there, as Jimmy congratulates Spike on his success in holding off the infected. Jimmy offers his services to kill off the rest. As we watch the Jimmy cult kill the infected in a very bizarre and violent ritual, and we even see them suffocating and hanging one of the infected like they did with the one that Jamie and Spike found earlier in the film. Now, I would imagine that this bizarre way of killing the infected is Jimmy growing up in the world as a kid, thinking that this was some badass cool way to kill the infected, like something you would watch on television. As our final moments show Jimmy offering Spike a place in their group, and Spike accepts. Now, as bizarre and wild of an ending that was, there is a more sinister and darker meaning behind Jimmy and his cult. Now, after doing some research, it appears that Jack O'Connell's Jimmy Crystal and his crew and their outfits consisting of vibrant purple tracksuits, heavy gold jewelry, and Jimmy's long blonde hair were all inspired by Jimmy Savile, the once adored British television presenter who after death was accused of committing hundreds of instances of sexual abuse, many involving children. It's been documented that Jimmy took advantage of the access that he had to medical facilities because of his charitable work to prey on the patients. It's also been said by an undisclosed doctor that Jimmy had an interest in the dead. Honestly, this being my first time hearing of him, so I had no full understanding of the hold he had on the British culture prior to his death. In the 1960s, Jimmy was best known for hosting the music show Top of the Pops. That was followed by the BBC program Jim Will Fix It, in which he would grant children's wishes, and that show ran from the 1970s into the 1990s. Now, taking all that information and applying it to this film, making the connection considering what this means to the world 28 years later. If the rage virus broke out in 2002 when 28 Days Later was released, then the events of the infected happened almost 10 years before the once British star would have had widespread knowledge of Jimmy's crimes. Now, going back to this film, the young Jimmy Crystal that we meet at the beginning of this film, being that it takes place in 2002, Jimmy would have known of Seville as a strange but treasured and beloved entertainer. Now, going back to the real world, even when Savile died at the age of 84 in 2011, his reputation was in such good standing that people from all over the country traveled to attend his funeral. Now, after doing this research, and trust me, there's still so much to explore with Jimmy Savile and also the connections to this film, I couldn't help but to have this somewhat bad taste in my mouth. But then I found this interview that provided some more insight from the creators Danny Boyle and Alex Garland themselves.
Just need to ask you about Jack O'Connell.
Aye.
I mean, what a way to end the film. I really think he's going to get people talking with these sort of very interesting look that may hark back to an infamous individual that may or may not be named. Can you talk about the thought process behind that character and ahead of the sequel, The Bone Temple?
The whole film, and if we ever get to make it the whole trilogy, is in some ways about looking back and looking forwards, and the relationship between looking forwards to better worlds or attempting to make better worlds, or trying to construct the world that you're in on the basis of old worlds, I suppose. So the sort of contrast or conflict between the two. And the thing about looking back is how selective memory is, and that it cherry picks, and it has amnesia, and crucially it also misremembers. And we are living in a time right now which is absolutely dominated by a misremembered past, and so it's that.
And he's as much to do with pop culture as he is to do with sportswear, to do with cricket, to do with the honours system.
Exactly.
It's all,
that's exactly right.
It's all kind of twisting in this partial remembrance, clinging onto things and then recreating them as an image for followers.
He's a kaleidoscope, isn't he? In a funny way, sort of trippy, fucked up kaleidoscope.
That's one hell of a way to end an interview.
Now, after hearing that, I am very intrigued to see what Alex Garland has to say in regards to people looking up to their mentors and their mentors not being the people they thought they were. How many times in our own personal lives have we been the person, or we know someone that has beloved a celebrity or an athlete or a singer as a child, as a teenager, or hell, even as an adult, and we inspired to be that person? We look up to them, we take inspiration from them, and then we later find out, either later in their life or after they die, that they were actually a terrible person. So I would imagine that in the sequel to this film, that Jimmy Crystal, played by Jack O'Connell, who is said to be the lead of the next film, he's going to learn about what his inspiration did, and maybe he'll change for the better or worse. We'll just have to see. So let me know in the comments below, how do you all feel about the film taking real life person Jimmy Savile and implementing it into this story and being an inspiration to Jimmy Crystal? Is it in bad taste? Are you open to interpretation to see how it plays out? Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Now, that's going to be the end of this 28 years discussion. I really appreciate you all making it to this point of the video, or if you're listening to this in podcast form, I would love to hear your thoughts about the film, the biggest takeaways, the deeper meanings, the standout moments, and how did you all interpret the ending? Let's talk about it all in the comments below. Now, if you all want to hear more of my thoughts about the film, more of an analytical as far as the direction, the performances, the cinematography, the score, click on the video that's on the screen now, or if you're listening to some podcasts, I do have a movie review of this film available on my podcast feed. You all are so amazing. Don't forget to like this video or podcast, share it, subscribe, follow for more discussions like this. You all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next breakdown.